The Minnesota Vikings were the luckiest team in football last season, as 11 of their 13 games were decided by one score or less. Matter of fact, they averaged less points per game than their opponents. So in 2023, will their luck run out? Let's go ahead and discuss. And what's crack-a-lackin', it's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourses. Today we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings. We'll go over the roster, the coaching staff, the scheme, and then I'll give you my predictions for the Minnesota Vikings in 2023 at the end of the video. Remember, I'm not doing this deep dive series in a power ranking order, but a draft order, because we're going to do a mock draft once we're all done with that. But little announcement, if you didn't know, now you know. Me and Alex from Hail Mary Sports have started a new YouTube channel called Draft Bros, where we talk football. If you're looking for a two-man booth, then go ahead, check that out. I'll put a link in the description below. But let's go ahead, get this sucker started with the coaching staff, as we got basically Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips in year 2 here with the Minnesota Vikings, but they moved on from Ed Donatel and got themselves a Brian Flores, which is very, very interesting, just considering, well, how close is this team schematically to what Brian Flores has usually done his whole career, which, I mean, this is a team, it's more so the coverage, right? Because back as a Dolphins fan, back when Flores was our head coach, you know, we saw a lot of the Belichick type of stuff where it was like, yeah, they're attacking 3-4, but they do it in a variety of different ways. We're going to see multiple fronts. They were very blitz heavy. The Dolphins, I think, led the league 2 or 3 years there with Flores at the helm in blitz rate, and I don't think that will change much. And he was very heavy on zone cover, like man coverage, excuse me, opposed to this team last year, which was very much a quarters zone scheme. So what does that mean for, because a lot of the parts in the secondary, even some of the additions they made, you might question how will it gel with Brian Flores' scheme and what he has traditionally done. Not to say, because we've seen Bill Belichick adapt. You know, if they wanted to play more zone, then they went out and played more zone. So it doesn't mean that Brian Flores can't adapt. I'm just saying what we have seen from him previously doesn't really lend me to believe that will change all that much. But we'll see how that all goes. I'm just looking something up real quick. But yeah, Flores, I'm glad he's getting another, after, I feel like he got a raw deal with the Dolphins. I'm a Fins fan, by the way. Fins up, baby. Fins up. Got Zach Thomas jersey right back there. But it's nice to see Brian Flores get a prominent coaching position in the NFL again. He was the linebackers coach and defensive assistant for the Steelers last year. So I'm just excited about that. And we'll kind of talk about the defense and schematically what that might mean for the Minnesota Vikings. But what we do know is what this offense is going to do and what they want to do. Kevin O'Connell was the former OC there for the Rams after Liam Cohen went to Kentucky, and then O'Connell left for Minnesota. Cohen came back for a stint with the Rams as OC, and now he's actually back in Kentucky as an OC. So kind of a wild journey, but Kevin O'Connell, we fully expect what we saw last year, the wide zone blocking scheme that is running rampant in the NFL. And I mean, what to expect if you're unfamiliar? I mean, this is a scheme that uses a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of movement. They rely on typically three wide receiver sets, but they're not afraid of going a bit bigger in personnel. It's a zone-heavy scheme, an outside zone scheme that gives the running back quite a few options. So typically, when your running backs have very good ball vision, and it tries to incorporate a lot of the play action. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this wide zone blocking scheme. I mean, they try to get into the ball into the hands of their playmakers, usually quick, but they're not afraid to attack downfield. So a lot goes into it. And, I mean, he's influenced by both Mike and Kyle Shanahan, because O'Connell worked under Kyle Shanahan, I believe, in Washington, correct? No, that would have been just after. But I mean, it's from Sean McVay, who did work under Mike and Kyle Shanahan. So it's a bit influenced by both. But O'Connell did work under Gruden as an OC. Jay Gruden, that is. Wes Phillips, if you didn't know, that is Wade Phillips' son. So fun fact for if you didn't already know, he was with O'Connell the year prior in 2021 as a tight ends coach and passing game coordinator. So he joined him over here in Minnesota. They're very like-minded in their approach and what they want to do. So actually, I'm expecting this offense to be. I know they took the hit of Dalvin Cook, but I'm going to tell you, I have high expectations for this offense. Can't be said. That can't be said about the defense, unfortunately. But for the gist, that is it for the coaching staff and the scheme. Let's go ahead and get into the roster. But before that, let me give a shout out to Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember to sign up with promo code Broshmo and they'll match that first deposit up to $100. They got Best Ball Mania currently going on, but they don't just do football. They take care of your betting needs year in, year out. But as always, my friends, bet responsibly. Let's go ahead, get into this offense. And I got this offense ranked as a top 15 to top 11, borderline top 10 unit. And I think they made the right additions. Well, Jordan Addison in particularly, but they also will get another year of certain players, particularly along the offensive line, to kind of grow. So obviously, Christian Darrisaw, freaking phenomenal. It came out last season and it was kind of his coming out party, man. The dude was good. A lot of people try to be like, well, I mean, to be fair, he had a relatively easy road when it came to who he was facing, but even when the competition got steep, I think he came out and played exceptionally well. But yeah, there were a few cases where it's like, yeah, okay, he got his bell rung this week, but dude came out and had a phenomenal year. Only allowed 23 pressures and 5 sacks. Across from him, Brian O'Neill, one of the more underrated tackles in the NFL. He allowed 24 pressures and 6 sacks last season, but the dude does a phenomenal job and he looked very good last season in this scheme. But we get to the middle, and to be fair, Garrett Bradbury, man, having a bounce back year after just kind of being woof for the last couple of seasons, and I thought he looked solid. I thought he looked particularly good. Keep in mind, man, this guy who's I don't want to say undersized, but slightly undersized. Good movement skills, though. I mean, he does hit that 300-pound threshold, but I feel like he is used to his best in a scheme like this. Ezra Cleveland, I thought, took a step up as a run blocker. We knew the guy had quick feet, movement skills. That's why some people consider him a tackle coming out. He was a tackle at Boise State. And yeah, he needs to get better as a pass blocker, but I'm hoping he takes that next bump. But to be fair, I say to be fair, but he wasn't particularly good as a pass blocker last season, allowing 55 pressures and 5 sacks. And you could say the same thing about Ed Ingram, but Ed Ingram was a rookie. He allowed 63 pressures and 11 sacks, but likewise, he was also a guy who was a very solid run defender. So you're hoping those two guys take steps up as pass blockers. All in all, though, I think this is going to be, this is a very good offensive line, even down to some of the parts that they have as backups. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those. They got Oli Uda, who played tackle in relief last season and looked very good. They list him here as guard, but man, I think he if you have an injury at tackle, that's who I would want to put in. They do have Vidarian Lowe, who I was a huge fan coming out of Illinois. The dude was a grown man who I thought was ready for the NFL game, mainly as a depth piece. And I think just another year in the league now, and I think he could be a very solid backup. So I think they're in a good spot when it comes to depth there. Outside of that, though, it ain't looking pretty. Blake Brandel's fine, as depth, but I won't want to see him start. Bobby Evans could be a long shot to make the roster, but he has a lot of familiarity with Kevin O'Connell back in their days with the Rams, right? Am I misremembering that? Bobby Evans was with the Rams, correct? Okay, he was. I was like, am I not remember that properly? I am. Okay. They do have a couple of UDFAs. Jackie Chen coming out of Pace University. Not much to say him. He was a UDFA for me as well. You got Alan Ali, who I think, correct me if I'm wrong, played center at TCU, and he was fine. Just kind of a guy there. So it's not like they have excellent depth. I think they have two good, solid tackle depth, but outside of that, it's not an incredibly deep room. So if injury does happen, I think things could get scarce. I mean, at least Chris Reed here, who they have listed at left guard. I think he came in couple of games last year and played center, but I mean, at least they have someone who played last year under this scheme and will be familiar with it with another year in it, and actually saw some starting time. So at least you can say that. But again, this offensive line I think is very good when you look at the starters, and I think will take a significant step up. You look at the playmakers, and it's playmakers aplenty in terms of the starters. They added TJ Hawkinson last season, and he just had a monster year for the Minnesota Vikings. I want to pull up specifically what he did compared to what he was doing for the Detroit Lions last year. Here we go. So like, yeah, through 8 games with the Lions, 7 games with the Lions, he almost had 400 yards, 3 tutties. He did retain only 3 tutties, but for the remainder of the year, I thought he looked very, very good, coming in with just shy of 600 yards for the remainder of the season. Had just a solid year, ended up cracking 1,000 yards if you include the playoff game. So TJ Hawkinson, a guy that is just, I think, can do both. I think he's a relatively solid blocker compared to most starting tight ends around the league, and he gives you that receiving upside, man. This guy, I think he is still currently Iowa high school basketball's like point leader. Isn't that wild? This dude's just a great athlete. And then you look to the outside, you get Jordan Addison. They get that long speed threat, a guy that's a legit separator, and you're pairing him up with freaking Justin Jefferson, who arguably is the best receiver in football. That's just how it is, man. The dude is phenomenal with what he can do. You love the build, you love the speed, you love Justin Jefferson. The dude's a legit separator and has just great ball skills. And now you're pairing him up with Addison, who a bit thin, but does a lot of those things, a lot of those similar things. Obviously not to that level, but I'm just saying, in terms of what he can do as a route runner, I think he's very well put together as a route runner. You do worry about the lack of physicality, but kind of is what it is. They have KJ Osborne. So, I mean, with Addison and Osborne, you could literally switch those guys in and out of the outside and the slot. So I like that flexibility. Osborne, I think Osborne's he's a good wide receiver 3 to have. I don't think he's a wide receiver 2, but I think he's an exceptionally solid wide receiver 3. Very good hands. Very good hands. Only had a drop rate last year he didn't drop a ball last year. That's wild. Very nice. 6'4", some missed tackles. little bit on the lower end, but not bad at all. Like, he is exceptionally solid. And I like that wide receiver trio with TJ Hawkinson. And we could get to the depth of their playmakers real quick as they bring in Josh Oliver, who is more akin to a blocking tight end who does have receiving upside. Like, he's got a very good, I think, athletic skill set. It's just injuries have kind of cost him much of his career. Johnny Mundin was here last season. That's about all I can say about him. To be fair, did see the most snaps of his career last year. They have, if we're looking at depth, Nick Muse, who ain't nothing special, coming out of South Carolina a couple of years ago, formerly of William and Mary. Yeah, they ain't got much to talk about outside of these three guys, and then maybe they keep a fourth name. But looking at the wide receivers, Jalen Naylor, he had his moments last season, and I think now here maybe more in a wide receiver 4 role. I'm kind of anxious to see what he can do. More of a special teamer, but still, I think that's good depth. Jalen Reagor, ideally he's a speedy threat, but you also are ideally maybe looking for better. They had Brandon Powell, who's really just depth at this point. Blake Perrell, who had a stint in the USFL, right? Or was it the ASF? I think it's the USFL. I don't think it was the USFL. Thayer Thomas is a UDFA out of NC State, I believe. Nothing special with him. Tristan Jackson was kind of this good size athletic freak coming out of Syracuse, who's just kind of been a developmental guy his whole career. Can he be any more than that? But there ain't much to talk about, I think, outside of Naylor. They have depth guys, but for the most part, you're kind of hoping you don't see those individuals. But I think the most interesting thing, because let's go ahead and talk about Kirk Cousins. Let's wrap this in a bow, and then we'll talk about the running back position, because Dalvin Cook, not here anymore. But listen, Kirk Cousins is a top 12 quarterback. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'll wait. You go in the comment section, talk your trash. Or maybe you're a fan of the Vikings and you're like, darn right he is, but I don't like paying him. We're playing for an exceptionally above average quarterback. Kind of want to find the guy. Is what it is. Listen, Kirk Cousins, he won't always be a needle mover, but he is someone that will come in who will effectively, efficiently operate your offense. I mean, we get a nitty gritty of things, man. Like, yeah, his average depth of target was middle of the road, which is fine. He'll take his downfield shots when he wants to. Like I said, it's fine. We're fine here. But like, the turnover rate's not bad. It's, again, kind of a bit better than middle of the road for a starter in the NFL. The big time play percentage is up there. You'll love to see it. And when he does take shots, to be fair, like, they're kind of 50-50 sometimes, but the dude 20 big time throws on plays of 20 yards or more, or I should say passes of 20 yards or more, with only 4 turnover worthy plays. Yeah, he had 6 picks when throwing deep, but not all of that was his fault and can't be attributed as such. I think he's relatively accurate on the intermediate, and I think that's, again, that's kind of where you see most of his turnover worthy plays, but also you could say the same about large majority around the league. But yeah, no, all in all, man, Kirk Cousins is a fine quarterback. He's a top 12 quarterback almost year in and year out who will flirt with being a top 10. Is he the guy? I don't think Kirk Cousins will ever be the guy, but a Kirk Cousins led team usually will be in playoff contention. Like, the dude is a good quarterback. He's better than a lot of starting quarterbacks in the league. I think he's better than Derek Carr. I think he's Honestly, maybe at this point, I think he's better than Matthew Stafford. But I mean, let's see how Matthew Stafford bounces back from injury. So let's just throw that out there. That's kind of the full, but I would argue he's probably better than a Ryan Tannehill. Like, the dude's not a bad quarterback, and we can't keep treating him as such. Like, the dude is solid, and with this amount of playmakers, with an offensive line, I say this good, and that's anticipating if the guard play gets better, which it should. These guys are another year in the system. Yeah, no, I fully expect good things for Kirk Cousins, man. He'll be rocking his dad shirts with the ice, with the bling. But let's talk about this running back position real quick. As you can see, I have Alexander Mattison as the starter here, and I think that's fair. The dude was literally Dalvin Cook's backup last season, 74 carries last year. But he's got competition. I don't want to say he was relatively successful last season. I mean, only how many forced missed tackles? 23 forced missed tackles. Honestly, on 74 snaps, really good number, but a sub 3 yard average yards after contact. Not ideal in terms of what he did in the passing game. 93 yards. It was fine. That's not his forte. It's really not. I think they're probably going to bring in a guy like Ty Chandler, who, out of curiosity, how active he was. He wasn't even that active. He didn't have 1 reception last year. You want to say Ty Chandler because he's a phenomenal straight line athlete, but like, who's going to step up as a pass catcher on this team? That's kind of the question. Oh, that is an interesting one to be had. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look. So everyone thinks Ty Chandler's probably challenging for this role, which I think that's fair, because Kian Nwangwu. Oh my gosh, why are names difficult? My boy KN here. We're gonna call him KN. Very good special teamer, I think. Good return man. And I think, maybe they get him more involved in the backfield. That'll be cool. My sleeper, though, to potentially start eating into some of the volume here is Dwayne McBride as UDFA. I think I ended up settling on a 4th round grade on him. Coming out of UAB, big power back who honestly is really good in tight quarters, better feet than you would expect for a bigger back, just doesn't have great long speed, but not necessarily something you need in the NFL. And they have a guy like Ty Chandler who does have that long speed. Nwangwu, who has that long speed. McBride ends up falling to the 7th round. I think part of that maybe was, I don't know if there was an injury that popped up. I'm not positive, and I can't really say that for sure. But because of injury, I don't know how severe the injury was, but because of injury, he ended up not participating in like the combine or his pro day, which probably led to him falling quite a bit. But he is my guy that might shockingly get a considerate amount of volume in this backfield, because I don't think he's that much different than a Alexander Mattison. They also do have CJ Ham, who is honestly one of the better fullbacks in the NFL. Again, fullback position not oftenly used in today's game, but he is definitely one of the better ones, one of the guys that see the most. He's up there with Kyle Juszczyk. But yeah, he had 2 tutties in the red zone last season. He was used quite a bit on, I say quite a bit, but I mean, he was used in the receiving game, which you kind of have to be now. If you're a fullback, you just can't be a blocker. You have to do something in the passing game. And fortunately, he did that. So yeah, at the end of the day, I have this offense doing exceptionally well. Who leads the backfield? I think Dwayne McBride could be a sleeper here. I know a lot of people do like Ty Chandler though, but Alexander Madison looking probably to be the volume getter in this backfield as of right now. Let's go ahead, move on to the defense because it's a different story for me. I got this as a bottom unit, and I put mystery secondary here. And I think it's because schematically, how do some of these guys line up with what Flores has done based on what we've seen in Miami? And I mean, where he's coming from in terms of Philly, what he has done doesn't really lend to some of the skill sets. I mean, I think them drafting Mekhi Blackman, who is more to this press man corner, made sense. And that's kind of why I think he could sneakily come in here and see a bulk of the snaps, even as a third round rookie. I have Andrew Booth Jr. as the other starter. I know his play wasn't great last year, but I think his skill set lends itself better to Flores' scheme than a Caleb Evans. Caleb Evans, I think, is more of this off-zone corner, while I think Andrew Booth is honestly probably a better zone corner than he would be in man, but he can play press, and I think his athletic traits say, hey, he's capable of marrying guys if you need him to. So, and like, I mean, with Caleb Evans, I don't think he's really got the footwork or like the short area agility to really play man coverage consistently. So that's why I'm giving the nod to Booth. Also, I mean, he has the more investment in him being a second rounder. They brought in Byron Murphy Jr., who, to be fair, has played a mixture of both zone and man coverage through his day in his days with Vance Joseph. So I don't think entirely. I think him being in the zone in the slot full time probably makes a bit more sense. He's someone who's played outside and outside and in, so he could kick outside if they're not that confident with some of the guys on the outside. But I think that, I don't know, man. There's a lot of interesting things they can do. So I mean, let's go ahead. Let's take a deeper look at this because they draft Jay Ward in the 4th out of LSU. Phenomenal athlete, but someone who probably plays in the slot, which probably means, okay, you could probably play Byron Murphy if you want to play him more because you're not so sure about your corners on the outside. So they can do that. They have Joanne Williams, who never really got a lot of playing time for New England after being drafted out of Vandy, I believe, but someone who is very familiar with how Flores wants to do things. So you have that there. Tate Gowan was someone who I loved at Central Florida and just hasn't been able to find a home. Not really much to talk about in terms of the UDFAs they have there. Maybe Jalen Williams out of Indiana, but he's kind of a long shot to make the roster. So I think mainly we're talking about like Ward, Murphy, you got Blackman, Evans, Williams, Booth. Those are for sure. And I think everyone else here is kind of expendable, if we're going to be honest. Looking at the secondary, you have Cameron Bynum, who honestly could probably work in the slot if you really want him to, though mainly he played deep last season, and I don't think that's something entirely. I don't think that's where his skill set's best used. I think you could, someone you could maybe even try out at corner if you want. He played corner, I believe, for Cal. So I think Lewis Seen, who was their first round pick in 2022, he steps into the fold as a starter. That's why I listed him there as such. And then Cameron Bryant maybe plays more of this, like maybe play in the slot, maybe play outside, or maybe when injuries come up, play deep, or maybe they just have this 3-man rotation at safety. Harrison Smith is always fantastic, one of their best players, honestly, in Vikings history. Let's go ahead and say it. Like, and I mean, this is a team that's had like Randy Moss and such, but like Harrison Smith deserves his flowers, man. He's been a hell of a player. Josh Metlis is more of a special teamer, though when called upon last year, because he was actually above Scene in the pecking order. I know Scene was injured for part of the year, but still, he looked good when stepping in, and he actually played deep quite a bit for this squad. So, like, I'm just going to say it, like, maybe someone who can step in and, like, I don't think Cameron Bynum's spot as a starter is cemented. I think he is going to get some push from Lewis Cine because of the high investment that they had in him. He is going to get pushed for it by Josh Metlis, who has been just wonderful for this team. And last year, when he had to step in and be a starter, he showed that he can do that. Because this is a team to be like, if they really do go man heavy, we're gonna see some like cover 0, or we're gonna see cover 1. We're gonna see like a cover 3 shell. Like they're gonna need that guy that can play over the top. And I don't think Bynum can do it to the degree as Scene or Metlis. So that is going to be interesting there, to say the least. So secondary is a bit mystery. There's optimism. I'm trying to show, like, throw some optimism out there, but this is a very inexperienced secondary. Evans, Booth, Blackman, all inexperienced. Jay Ward, if he sees playing time, all inexperienced. Like, the corner position is, I think, is still going to be a problem for this team, but as they will figure things out as the year goes and what parts that they want to hold on to. But I'm just saying it's going to be the Achilles heel, so to speak, of this team. All right, let's go to, let's work our way down. Let's go to the linebacker core. Jordan Hicks is a just solid starter, man. This is a guy that I think any team around the league would love to have. He just plays the position well. Might not be like the most flashiest or splash play guy in coverage. I know that's just not him, but he's effective against the run. He's a sure tackler, and he will minimize gains in coverage. They pair him up with Brian Asamoah, who I loved coming out of Oklahoma. This guy's got length. He is rangy. I think he will probably be the word I'm looking for is, he will be detriment to the run defense, though. That's not exactly his game. He's got long arms. He can wrap up well, or he should be able to wrap up well, but he only did see 121 snaps last year, but he had a 16.7 missed tackle rate, so you are going to worry about that. But they drafted him for what he can do in coverage and what he can do alongside Jordan Hicks, and I'm very excited about that. Looking deeper at the linebacker position, we got Troy Dye, who I've always thought is just, he's been solid for him. He's a good depth piece. Like, he's not beautiful. He's not like phenomenal, but I think he's a very opportunist blitzer. And this is what I said about him coming out of Oregon, that like he knows how to get after the quarterback. He knows how to find a pathway to the quarterback when asked to. Thing is, though, they bring in as a UDFA Ivan Pace, who is that guy. He is that guy. The dude was phenomenal at getting after the quarterback, and you bring that guy in specifically to do that. You know, he's not going to be like the surest run defender at his lack of height and length. He's not going to be he's not a crazy athlete. He's not going to be great in coverage, but you bring him in to get after the quarterback. You got Troy Reeder, who is just here. Like, he's depth. If he's ever your starter, you're sick to your stomach. No real other names, I think, of note here at the linebacker position. So let's go ahead and talk about this defensive line. Linebacker position, I think it's fine. I think it's a middle of the road group that's slightly trending probably down, like below average, just because the inexperience of Asamoah, like Troy Reader's like meh, Troy Dye is good depth, but I'm very encouraged by a Ivan Pace. All right, looking at the defensive line, your edge rushers, they lost Darius Smith this offseason. Well, they released him because he didn't want to be with the team anymore. It sucks when the person you want to be with doesn't want to be with you anymore. It really does. But they bring in Marcus Davenport, who, listen, when this guy's on the field, he has been very good. Let's go ahead. Let's just pull from his analytics, so I'm just not talking out my butt. I think while I pull this up, Danielle Hunter, he's freaking phenomenal. I don't know what more you want me to say about Danielle Hunter. He's great. He's going to be this he's going to be the leader in this pass rush. 76 pressures last season, 13 sacks. The dude is a monster. But like, just looking at what he's done, like over like what he's been able to do. Like last season, he only played 400 or almost 500 snaps and 34 pressures. I know the sack number wasn't great, but the year before, you look at he had a similar number in terms of pressures. He had 42. So yeah, he was a bit better in 2021, but you saw the sacks. Listen, if this is a guy that like, sacks are such a, it fluctuates typically, unless you're like one of the elite guys. They usually fluctuate. Give me the guy that's consistently getting pressure, and eventually, like, you'll see those sack totals go up, or you'll see the sack totals here and there go up. But give me the guy that's consistently getting pressure, consistently getting there, and at least forcing sacks, even if he's not registering them himself. I don't need a high total sack guy. I want guys that can get home and put pressure on the quarterback. Listen, I get it. Sack's a great stat. And you know what? It's important because it says, hey, not only did they get the pressure, but they finished the play by sacking the quarterback. But we already have that guy in Danielle Hunter. Just give me someone who could come in and give me that pressure. Be it, Davenport has never been healthy his whole career, which is why he got the 1 year prove it deal here with the Vikings. He's only played over 500 snaps once in his career. So can he do it here? You kind of hope, but he's got the talent. Don't sleep. I don't think Davenport was a bad signing. The 1 year prove it deal, I thought was a good sign-in. Now let's look at some of the depth they have there at the edge position, as they got DJ Woodham, who I think is a very good rotation edge. I think some people kind of overhyped him after, what was it, his rookie year initially? Like, yeah, his rookie year, where he saw a considerable amount of snaps as a rotation player, 22 pressures and 3 sacks. And then as more of a not necessarily starter, but he was getting starter worthy snaps. Like, I mean, basically was a starter. 42 pressures, 8 sacks, and we were like, oh, 8 sacks, but 42 pressures. This guy is rarely getting to the quarterback. Now, last year when they used him more, in a reserved role as a rotation player, you saw a similar amount of pressures. You love that. Keep this guy fresh. You don't necessarily have him on the field all the time because he's not that good of a run defender either. So, like, I think as in a rotation role, he fits perfectly. He really, really does. Pat Jones, I wasn't a big fan of coming out of Pittsburgh. Still not. Last season, he actually did better than I would expect. So, good on him. But another depth rotation guy. Andre Carter ends up not getting drafted, but he signs actually a very good UDFA deal, where he had guaranteed money in there too. So they're looking at him like, yeah, he's a project. They put him on the pup. He's a guy that needs to develop his body, but boy, the traits are there. The length, the movement skills of being someone dangerous. We saw it not last year, but a year before at Army, where he just went off for like 15 sacks. Like, there's something there to be developed. And I like that he doesn't have immediate pressure on him going, like, especially like the bar is low for him as a UDFA. Other guys that they have, Curtis Weaver, who I loved coming out of Boise State, never has quite panned out. Luigi Villain, terrible with names. He was a UDFA out of Wake Forest. He's kind of fine, but really more depth than anything else. Saw 35 snaps last year, so good on him. Let's move to the interior, because this might sound a bit weird. I think it's one of the better strengths of this team is just the guys that they put around the line of scrimmage. They put on the line. And Harrison Phillips, very solid defensive interior player. Really, really solid. Last season, he was a phenomenal run stuffer. And he managed to get a little bit of pressure in there as well. Someone who can play in the A-gap if you need him to. But yeah, no, I got no complaints about Harrison Phillips. Ideally, not the guy you want to, but I mean, that's why they have Kairis Tonga, who is a big meaty boy at 6'4", 338. This is the cat who, especially down like during the second half of the year, they were like, oh man, we got ourselves a space eater here. Let's go. Who can occasionally get after it. So I'm very excited about that. I think Tonga and Phillips are a solid enough unit. Are they world beaters? Hell no. But they're a solid enough unit. They bring in Dean Lowry, who, let's get to the depth here. Dean Lowry, who spent basically his whole career in Green Bay and was kind of this solid 4-eye guy. And that's kind of him. They have Oda Mawo, who they took out of Minnesota the prior year, who's kind of fits a similar mold. They drafted Jaquilin Roy this season, who I think is better than his tested numbers. But he is very much this kind of gap. I think he's kind of a gap penetrator. But this dude was asked consistently at LSU just to be a space eater. And I don't think necessarily that was what he was going to be in the NFL at his size. What I think he's might be 305, maybe 305, called it. And that might even be generous to what they're giving him. But I think he could develop into a solid player. Sheldon Day has always been a solid depth piece. And could be a long shot to make the team. They bring in Jonathan Bullard. They have James Lynch, who kind of similar to what Dean Lowry does. Ross Blacklock, who never developed in Houston, hasn't really done much of anything since coming here. Just wasn't good. He hasn't been good. And I don't see him staying in the league much longer. But I think they have a solid group here that I think can get after the quarterback and that can really play the run exceptionally well. I really believe that. I think they're going to be really good against the run. And I think that if Marcus Davenport can stay healthy, that they're going to be able to get after the quarterback, because they're going to need to. Because this young secondary, they're going to need some time. They are. The only reason I have this as a bottom unit is solely because of that secondary and how I think they fit into Flores's scheme. So we'll see how they are. I think they could probably end up being a middle of the road unit. And I think last year, the defense wasn't stellar, but I don't think it was particularly bad. It was just the secondary was exceptionally bad. And I kind of fear that'll kind of be the case again this season. And I guess we could go ahead and get to my predictions for the Minnesota Vikings, as currently their over and under is 8.5. I said at the beginning of the video, this team was lucky as hell last season They had the largest comeback in NFL history, 33 points to the Colts. They were down 33 points to the Colts. They were able to beat the Bills because of a Josh Allen end zone fumble. Like, this team averaged less points per game than their opponents. When they got smacked, they got smacked. And when they won, it was within tight margins. Remember, 11 of their 13 wins came on games decided by one score or less. I don't think that luck is going to necessarily be with them this upcoming season. I think we're going to see some of those those tight games fall the other way. I mean, it's kind of been that way with the Chargers, right? They're always on the wrong end of it. They're the reverse Vikings, so to speak. But I guess to be fair, like, Chargers have been doing it first, so the Vikings would be the reverse Chargers. But you get what I'm saying. A team that played many close games last year, but ended up on the wrong side of the final score. Vikings, I think they're going to come crashing down to earth a little bit, but I still think this is a very competitive team. I still think this is a very solid team. And I have them going 8-9. So right on that general right on the win total line that Vegas has, and I have them being solid against losing teams, 5-2, 3-7 against winning teams. To be fair, I think they have the 9th hardest schedule by my projection, so not ideal for the Minnesota Vikings. It's a tough schedule, but you can make an argument, the division's up for grabs. I mean, again, we don't entirely know what to expect with Jordan Love. How much of a step up does Justin Fields take? The Lions, they're this very hyped up team that has a lot of good pieces. So the NFC North's up for grabs. And to be fair, I had it as a very tight division. I think now y'all already know that I have the Lions winning this division. And I'll just say it's not by much, but I have them splitting the division, going 3-3. And let's just go ahead into the game by game. I got them opening against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and winning that one. But who knows? Maybe Baker has a hell of a game. And again, we don't entirely know what to expect from Baker. And I would dare say that Tampa Bay is not a bad put together team. It's just questions at quarterback and the offensive lines still figuring things out. But that defense is very good. Got y'all losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are monsters. I think y'all lost to the Eagles last year too, right? Vikings schedule. I should have put it in 2022. Yeah, y'all got smacked. Be fair, that was like second game of the year though. I got y'all beating the Chargers, which, I mean, I just compared y'all to the Chargers. So let's just Chargers continue to be on the wrong side of the final score. Beating the Panthers, losing to the Chiefs. Chiefs are a very good team. Again, I have y'all splitting with the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions, I believe. Let me just go confirm that. Yeah, I got y'all splitting all the way down. Losing to San Fran, I think they're a really good squad. I have Atlanta edging a win out here. Atlanta at home. I think Atlanta added a lot of parts, and really the question is Desmond Ridder. Beating the Saints. I'm higher on the Broncos this year. We'll see. Maybe they again let us down. We'll be talking about the Broncos fairly shortly on this deep dive series. Beating the Raiders, coming out of your bye, losing to the Bengals. So again, I mean, like a lot of your losses are tough squads. Like split a division, so that's 3 games there. But you have to face the Bengals, Broncos, Niners, Chiefs. I mean, even Atlanta. You can make a case for Atlanta being a scary team, but I won't. Chargers, Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's fair. 8-9 is fair. It's why the over and under win total set at 8.5 makes it a tough decision. I don't know which way I bet. And you know what? With this team's luck maybe running out, I don't think I'd want to bet it. I really don't. Like with how lucky this team was last year, let's say they retained some of that. Like I don't want to have to guess what the Vikings can be this season, just with a little bit of lady luck on their side. I don't. And people were like, "Oh, you're calling them lucky, blah blah blah. That wasn't all just luck." And it's like, y'all know what I mean. I mean, you play that close, like you fly that close to the sun. Eventually, you're gonna get burnt. Your wings are gonna melt, and you come crashing down to earth. They can't do that this year, like, because the teams they face, close games, that ain't gonna allow it. I feel like they're gonna be on the opposite side of the coin, where when they got smacked by better teams last season, they got smacked. And I could see that happening in a few of these instances. But let me know what you think about the Minnesota Vikings in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.